Welcome to the Leadership Unscripted podcast presented by Hiring Strategies. The Leadership Unscripted podcast is your go-to source for all things people management oriented. In each episode, we discuss industry trends, problems, and more importantly, offer solutions. We are so happy you could join us.
Great. Good morning. This is Leadership Unscripted, where we are talking about all the things that impact leaders and impact their organizations and want to have the discussions that are difficult to have sometimes. We like to say that we are changing the world one leader at a time. So hopefully today will be beneficial for you. Please feel free to share this. Please feel free to reach out if you want to discuss anything around these topics. Today, I am here with Reggie Hammond of Your Crescendo, and we are talking about really his expertise and his organization's purpose, which is purpose and why. Reggie, please give us a little bit of background about you. Tell us your story, tell us about Your Crescendo, tell us what your why is and a little bit about your background.
Outstanding. It would be my pleasure, Kim. First of all, I just want to say thank you for inviting me to this conversation. I am so encouraged by what you're doing you had me at hello at the invitation to talk about Leadership Unscripted. It's kind of what I do, eat, breathe, and live every day. So to be able to kind of pause for a moment and having a conversation with a practitioner that is doing deep work, another practitioner that's doing excellent and deep work, and then we've had an opportunity to partner with clients. You like I said, you had me at hello. So I am here. My name is Reggie Hammond, and so just earlier this month I celebrated 13 years of Your Crescendo. And it has been an absolute honor and pleasure. Every day I pinch myself. I can't believe I get to do what I do for a living. I'm having an absolute blast. And that same joy that I have discovered for myself, I try to have leaders find that joy for themselves. So I am enthusiastically, maybe even overbearingly focused on purpose and impact. And tapping into the purpose for leaders is something that I have, kind of committed the rest of my career and life to. I am really excited and enthusiastic about the point you made around making this world better one leader at a time. That's exactly the approach that we take. So when I think about purpose, I think about leaders, teams, and organizations, and they each have purpose that oftentimes are either overlooked or made less of a priority because it's not something that you're looking at every day. Sometimes it's not even hasn't even been discovered and affirmed, or even cast as something to be very intentional about. But that's what I do. So those three lanes allow me to engage clients in ways that they or you might recognize as executive coaching, leadership development, and strategic planning. All of those kind of centered in purpose and mission as the core and intention for the experience, and everything else comes off of that. I tell people all the time, when I describe my services, as long as you tell me it's about purpose, we can do almost anything.
I love it. I love it. Tell me what purpose means to you. What is purpose and why? What's the point? And why is it so important? Define that for us.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to share my perspective on this. Purpose is the why of a person. So, and it kind of goes back to a core belief that I have that each and every one of us have been gifted with a set of gifts. I think about them as strengths, things you are really good at, passions, things that you love to do, And motivations are things that reward you or make, give you that kind of warm and fuzzy feeling of fulfillment. And when you can take those things and kind of pull them through your, what I call exemplary leadership practices and plug them into your purpose, that is when celestial choirs are singing and you can't believe you get to do what you get a chance to do. You perform naturally. Excuse me, you love, I'll take a step back here. So you perform naturally, you love what you do, you can't get enough of it. You rarely tire of it, although you still got to work out, watch out for balance. But that for me is purpose, is the why you're here. And I'm fortunate to have been in enough of these conversations to have developed a process, of an experience to discover or affirm that for any person that I have the opportunity to engage.
Awesome. That's a great question, because I have people tell me and hear out there all the time that, well, not everybody has a purpose. Like sometimes we just, live and go to work, and that is our purpose, to just
Yeah.
exist, right?
Right, right.
That, have you ever run into someone who doesn't have an actual purpose? You haven't been able to find that for them?
So um, I will pivot your question and come in at a different angle if you don't mind. I
Absolutely.
have run into people who say that,
Okay.
and usually what that is an indication of the fear of the implications of even asking the question. Let's say if you are comfortable, maybe even complacent in a world or what you've done for yourself that really has things that are okay, meaning everything is jazzing, all the things are working together, arranged really well. The notion of disrupting that with a conversation as big as purpose is fearful enough that you might subconsciously say, I don't know that I even have one, right? Oftentimes, and I candidly, when you take on a mission like the one I've taken on, which is I want to get the world on purpose with impact, one person at a time. So I have to be strategic in who I choose to do with that. To this point, I've chosen to engage people who are at least aware and or open to the conversation of discovering what purpose is. However, and this is why I was probably smirking as you were asking this question. What I have learned is that there are professionals and practitioners in this space that have either for themselves been either in denial or deep cynicism about purpose, and they have built their narrative around their work around it. I mean, there's a gentleman that I'm thinking about right now. I really enjoy his meditation and mindfulness and insights, and every fifth reel of his on Instagram is like scratching on the chalkboard because the he explores the issue of purpose, and it's to me clear that he is there is an internal stress around projecting and casting change for yourself that many either don't want to face, or you don't want to see other people have to wrestle with this really some possibly difficult question. I often say it's not as difficult as it's only tough until you get to the conversation. If you really go to the conversation, it's not as difficult as you see as it seems. So, but with that said, there is a healthy appetite of cynicism, denial, and it's all fear-based. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I would, if given the opportunity, challenge any person that thinks that they don't have purpose to take them through the conversation and the series of questions, as long as they can show up authentically to those conversations, then we'll walk away with them aware of their purpose and hopefully having taken on the challenge to go pursue it.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, no, I agree. I just run into those people on a frequent basis and
Everywhere.
wonder, is it truly that they don't, or is it that they don't want to address what that might be and, like you said, disrupt what they currently have going on? I guess
Right.
the next question would be, should they? If everything is going the way that is going well for them and it's smooth and there's no challenges. I mean, I don't know anybody who has a life that doesn't have challenges, but um if that truly is the case and they really say, I'm good, like, should they? Is that something that you would encourage, or should they just leave status quo?
Oh man, you're unpacking. This is therapeutic. You're unpacking a lot of the things.
Yeah.
So first, just I would say that maybe more than you believe, there are a lot of people that are at least externally okay, very okay. Like we all know of, and you get there. There's a good set of reasons why people get to this okayness. Think about like how you got into your profession and the things that sometimes feel very intentional about decisions you got to where you are, and sometimes it's just dumb luck, seemingly. One person's dumb luck is the other person's divine intervention, right? So, but anyway, the things that can bring you to where you are can easily have taken you to a place that maybe you weren't called to be, right? And, you know, there's no um, there's no guilt to us or blame to us to assign for having that situation. So as long as you can kind of get past that part of the conversation, like, oh man, what did I do wrong? Nothing, you did nothing wrong.
Right.
Now, where are you now? Right? Because everywhere you are to be. And to figure out what's next is what's really important. I've been fortunate enough to have been like I said, 13 years. Well, if you think about it, 13 years ago in the business and career realm, if you walk in the room talking to leaders about pursuing purpose, they look at you like you got three heads on your shoulder, right? So I've been through that phase of life where this, background in management consulting with big global firms and then boutique firms. I've been really successful in driving major transformations. And so this pivot for me was all about building deeper, more meaningful relationships with the people I work with. So if now I'm shifting this conversation to not only how are we going to drive this change or this transformation for this organization, but how are we going to take a look at you to figure out if there is a change pending that we should be working through, you might encounter some doubt. And what I can say, and maybe this is my optimism showing up, but it's a lot less now. I mean, there are thought leaders in the space. There are people that are kind of taking on purpose. I mean, even what I will say is that even if it's somewhat veneer, there are organizations that are taking on purpose as it's how they want to be positioned in the market, right? So there's some merits to it that people are starting to embrace. But what I would say is that usually, I mean, and this conversation comes up so much that I actually developed a diagnostic around conquering fear and the importance of naming it so that it has less than half of its ability or velocity to be as impactful for you, just being able to name it. And so I've been able to help people navigate this conversation and get them to a place that that they feel like there is this pursuit of something more meaningful that's possible. And for some, it's just affirming where they are. I mean, we all have encountered people who are clearly exactly where they should be.
Absolutely.
Right. Right. I do want to, at risk of probably share more than you asked. I do want to go back and address a keyword that's um, a bit of a kind of a flag post in a conversation around the word should, right? For me, should comes to a dangerous place in a conversation, or you have to be like, when you encounter a should in a conversation, at least in this one, you got to be really intentional about what comes next, right? So who determined what the should is? Is there some commonly accepted set of rules and laws and, you know, just being able to commonly ground what should is really important in order for you to have a good conversation about what should is. And so my default practice is each person is the only person, or at least the authority, on what should be for them. No one else knows the collection of all your experiences, all the wisdom that you've built, enough to be able to come in to your experience and say, this is what you should do, right? Because they are missing out on all of the things that kind of got you there. All you can do is hope that that person in the conversation engages you in a to more inform what they're going to do next. So only they can set shoulds. And the reason why I have this just fiery, emphasis on the importance of this, I have seen people just tie themselves up in knots trying to wrestle with their shoulds, all the shoulds of people that have, I mean, I'm thinking, I can't even have this conversation without thinking, like seeing the picture of a specific client, and we couldn't even get to her work until we had to untie the should knots for a month before we could even get to her work. And it's just the way that we place expectations, sometimes not rightfully so, on each other.
Yeah.
And it just it can be suffocating.
Thank you for addressing that, because you're absolutely right. And I think should really gets oftentimes is what derails us from our purpose and
Absolutely.
because we feel as if we should be doing something else or taking care of someone else or
Absolutely.
you name it. So thank you for addressing that. That's
Sure.
absolutely, I think, a critical part. And by unraveling that, I think that's where you learn to set the boundaries for yourself around those things that you need to do for yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
No,
Exactly.
I love that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Oh, of course, sure.
So I want to talk, so we're talking about purpose, and
Mhm.
oftentimes purpose, when we think about purpose, we think about it being an individual's purpose, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
There's this organizational purpose, and that's
Mhm.
what I often talk to my clients about. They're definitely tied together, and
Mhm.
should, I'm going to use that word, they should
Yeah,
work together, right?
they should. Yeah, we can all stand on that should.
Sometimes they don't.
Mhm.
Talk about organizational purpose for a minute, and the work that you do there and how important that is and what that means to you.
Yeah. My approach to organizations and individuals as it relates to purpose is very similar. The orientation to how you approach the question is exactly the same. You're answering the question of why and and the so what. So what's the impact that comes from it? So if you can describe the the reason for being for any person or any organization, then that is your purpose statement. So for organizations, it can be Very similar. It's like the first cousin of mission, what people call mission, right? So
Right.
I often think about, and in with organizations, we're either sometimes wrestling and either coupling or detangling vision, mission, and purpose. So the way I see the three as subtly different. And so a vision is what you hope to see, and then mission is what you're going to do to get there to see that. Right.
I'm
And the purpose, I'm sorry.
taking notes.
Oh, sure, sure. I love it. And your purpose is why you did it. Like, what's the impact? Like, what is it that you're trying to create as a result of it? So for me, it's helpful to collectively get there with organizations. Different leaders have different styles for how they go into that conversation. If I were to, I could plot on a continuum. On this end, there is the leader that has not given this much thought and is doing more managing than leading, if you catch my drift, right? They're tactically managing to get things done to a vision and mission that is in their head, and they're really the keeper of it. To leaders that um, very intentionally share their visions, mission. They perhaps even co-created them. They collectively pursue them, and they have the benefit of people working on their teams that would run through a brick wall for them. Just in terms of the way that they're able to lead, and they don't necessarily have to manage by assigning tasks. They can lead by keeping forward this shared vision that we're working towards, and then leaning into the brilliance and genius of that person's purpose to pursue it, to play their role in pursuing it.
I love it.
Mm.
Yeah, I get in these conversations with clients around, well, we're just here to get the results, right? We're here for the numbers. We're here to achieve this specific goal. And they don't often see the benefit or the bigger picture to defining that purpose and having a vision. How do you and how do you have convince them that this is important?
So first of all, it kind of depends on the mood. The mood I'm in when I encounter. Sometimes I can appreciate a little skepticism for us to have a philosophical conversation. All right. So if we encounter this um, skepticism in a place where we can take a journey through our individual and collective thoughts, I like to see people get there for themselves, right? So through a series of critical questions, for example, um, well, I'll say that for the second part of this response, but there's a way for us to kind of get there together. I believe that there is a really convincing business case, value proposition for why you want to lead with purpose and vision, um, drive to results, even manage with purpose and vision. If nothing else, but simply the point that I just made around the ability to influence people to deliver results, tapping into their own gifts, as opposed to you having to take on the arduous task of managing, identifying what the right tasks are, assigning the right tasks, managing to create, to what the expectations. So if you've ever noticed, if you've ever been around really effective and powerful and influential leaders, they can they can leave a drop with someone and that person is all set to go. I happen to know me well enough. You give me one little morsel of encouragement that you like something that I did, man, I am running through walls. I am like figuring out how do I get to that next moment where I get that morsel. You know that team, when you know your team and their strengths, passions, and motivations, you then have the opportunity to be a leader that's all you do is have the right conversations with people to have, purpose in the way that they pursue. There's a story. I hope that this is a true story, although it could be an urban legend. That at NASA, someone was asking the janitor what he did for a living, and he said, "Oh, we put people on the moon." Do you know what I mean? A janitor, right? So you can think about the context of what he tactically does, or the bigger picture of for what he does. But he plays a role in putting people on the moon. And so every person has the opportunity to define what they do through tasks, through their job or role, or through the bigger mission. And the more you can get people to define in their job or role and align with the bigger mission, the frankly easier I think leading organizations is.
The less managing you have to do, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you can, if you like that task management thing, you can do it that way, but to me, that's the hard way.
Yeah. Why, we're in this unprecedented employment economy. We're in this, time of challenge, time of everything is changing in the world of work, frankly.
Right.
How does purpose impact that, and how important is it in today's work world?
I think it is more important than ever.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of data points that have gotten me to here. I love talking to people about what the future is going to look like. And I remember some time ago speaking to a friend that had just been to a presentation by a futurist, which the job alone is one that I would love to have. Like, would you do it? I can't even imagine just the joy in that. But so and what some of the projections that this person kind of laid out, things like he shared with this group of professionals, your children are likely not even going to have a driver's license, right? I mean, imagine the series of things that would create this new reality that you wouldn't need to drive. And the more he shared these, the more it became apparent for his kind of big message was, so what is going to rule the day in terms of what people do? It's going to need to be purpose. And she was sharing this with me, without trying to kind of tell me what I want to hear, kind of thing. So in my mind, that's the optimism side of it. I think the more you tap into purpose, the clearer you can get on what it is you're doing and why. Now, I want to share the darker side of it, which was a recent conversation that I had a couple of days ago. And there is a gifted editor that we frequent the same diner, and I ran into her after seeing her in a while. And she has really been struggling with the, oncoming changes in the work world as it relates to AI. And what does that mean? And so I'm having this conversation with her to encourage her to, now more than ever, tap into purpose. The things that you've been gifted to do are always going to be there. See AI as a way to do them easier. Yes, your job may change, your markets may change, how you get to do those things may change. But if you are true to yourself, then you're able to I trust your ability to find the lane to continue to do those things. And thinking this conversation, and from my perspective, I'm like, yeah, Reggie, you're really helping. And then she leans in, pats me on the shoulder, and says, "Oh, you're pretty optimistic, huh?" It's so, You really are optimistic. And it just, of course, the cynicism in it. I if I joined her in her cynicism, I'd say something like, okay, well, you can kind of stay in this defeated state if you like. I
Yeah.
just think that is the opportunity for people to kind of see themselves in the new world that's coming. First of all, it is upon us. There are, but it arguably no more than any other time, right? Change is inevitable, right? We're evolving. We have a new set of environmental circumstances that would create the necessity for change. I think the stronger your commitment to who you are, what your gifts are, and how do you engage those, how you bring those things to create the better communities, country, world that we're in, the more certain you can feel that there's a place for you to do it.
Yeah. I think if you're right, you're absolutely right. If you are focused on the thing that drives you, that thing, that those gifts that you've been given and bring
Right.
joy, then it doesn't
Right.
matter how you're doing them. What matters
Exactly right.
is why you're doing it. And
That's
you
exactly right.
can shift. Do you think, I'm going to push on you a little bit. Do you
Okay.
that the marketplace today, the employees and candidates of today, the younger generations who are pushing back on the current state of work, the current work world, the older generations who are leading it, do you think that pushback has something to do with purpose? Or do you think that's something completely different?
So for some time now in our work world, we have been aware that there has been a growing importance of purpose. I remember this talent and workplace study that came out from Deloitte probably a decade ago that basically concluded, that the message they were getting for candidates and people entering the workforce was um, pay them for meaningful work or watch them walk out the door
Mm.
was kind of the sobering, kind of conclusion.
Years ago.
10 years ago,
So
right.
COVID,
Pre-COVID, absolutely, absolutely.
the Gen Zs weren't in the workforce then. Millennials were
Right.
starting to enter the workforce then.
That's exactly right. This was a millennial study, in fact, it was because people were really, you probably remember people were really struggling. What are we doing with these new millennials? Right. This was meant to be, empirical evidence, statistical data to support how to address these intergenerational challenges. So yes, I think that it is an awareness of a necessity for purpose that is shifting how organizations win the war for talent, develop the best leaders, and give people a platform and a trajectory for growth.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been talking for 30 years about the disengagement numbers,
Oh
right?
my God, yes, yes, yes.
I think,
They're not getting any better. I don't know if you follow the Gallup work, but they're not getting any better. You still got,
yeah,
a third of the people, less than a third, that are really plugged in and love what they do, I'd say on purpose. You still got, the middle of the group that are just kind of there for a paycheck, but they're functional. And then you got the other third that's looking to do something else and working against the rest of the team. And there's a level of apathy in our organizations that's okay because it just is so common. Like you got some leaders, you got leaders who've got people in their team who don't even take on the challenge of better engaging someone who is clearly actively disengaged. They just kind of want to watch things run their course, kind of thing. So I'm sorry. I know that I know that these are issues that you help clients wrestle with. And so I'm just giving you
no,
a hymnal to sing in the choir.
so this is exactly what I want. I want expertise and your thoughts and your you've been in this market for a while and you know what's driving it. And I'm trying to make those connections, right? Is it purpose? And because this is what I'm seeing, what's causing it.
Mhm.
And hearing you say that, yes, it absolutely is just validating for me to keep doing this work, right?
Absolutely. Please keep doing this work. Yes.
So do you think that you can have a purpose that is not work driven? So maybe I'm doing a job that actually helps me to fulfill my purpose outside of work. Is that a thing?
There is a Bible verse that says your gifts will make room for you. I wholeheartedly believe that. So when I translate that into our work, the purpose, the thing that you're called to do, there is commerce for that somewhere, right? Now, what you call work is being redefined. There's corporate, there's jobs, there's entrepreneurship, there's freelancing, all of the things that have value in or commerce in a work world can be transacted. That value, you're the real meaning of purpose says that you've got something that you're doing for someone else, right? It's that you're not just doing a job for yourself, you're doing this for someone else. That someone else, there's a value associated with it. Now, whether that person is the party that transacts that value of that purpose, or if it's transacted by someone else, if you have a purpose, it I I hesitate just from saying guaranteed, but it's very likely that it is a commerce related thing enough for you to pursue it. What I think people kind of paint themselves in boxes around is when they have a purpose. If you only look at one element of purpose, say for example, here's a great example. There was a client who played basketball through college and we're going through Forte, and I always kind of force, even if uncomfortably, the conversation around passions. It was clear he was resisting this thing that kept coming up in like me poking and prodding at what his passions are. It was clear he was resisting this thing that he really loved to do, which was basketball. And so finally got it out of them. We inventoried. I always tell them, we just put it on the list, man. We just put it on the list, and we'll come back when we do our purpose discovery. It usually kind of surfaces. And what we came to find purposeful for him was creating homes and spaces for people and organizations, right? Seemingly nothing to do with basketball, right? So we and moving this conversation along, and he's a commercial, kind of real estate developer. Um, and we're talking about a project that he was working on. And somehow it came up that it was in a neighborhood where there was a basketball court that no one ever plays on anymore. And I grabbed that string and started pulling. Have you ever seen this before? He's like, well, usually that's a good sign that there's a development opportunity to buy a property, renovate it. Is that if I see that kids aren't outside playing, i.e. basketball, then it's an opportunity to do some development. And then he had the eureka, which is, that is kind of a leading indicator for the work that he's called to do. When he sees a basketball court that's not being utilized on, that calls on his purpose. Ta-da! That is the if you are committed enough to the conversation to explore for yourself, um, it makes itself evident to you.
Interesting. Okay. I love that. Because I think people maybe just aren't aware of how that purpose is commercial, right?
Yes, oftentimes people stop themselves, like they box themselves out of the conversation about things that they're passionate about. And notice I'm very, very intentionally separating the word passion from purpose, right? Passion is something that is a feeling for you internally. Purpose is how you take that passion along with strengths and motivations and give it to the world.
Mhm.
People box themselves out of that conversation just to convince themselves, and it's almost usually subconscious, that this thing that I love to do can't possibly be my job. Now, the other thing that, and I just got to mention this, there is this other reason why people have cynicism around just the hesitation to this conversation is they believe that it immediately means making some big change. It doesn't even have to be a change. I mean, you can choose whether you start making some pivot towards purpose. At least have the conversation to build awareness to it. And it's usually that awareness that starts to create opportunities for you to pursue it. You know, my neighbor often says, leap and the net will appear, kind of thing. So it usually, um, I'm trying to think of what's the quote from The Alchemist, one of my favorite books, is once you discover purpose, the universe conspires to bring it to you.
Ah, that is very true. The doors start to open, conversations are had.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly right.
yeah,
That's exactly right.
love it. I love it. What am I not asking, Reggie, that you want to get out there? What is the message that you want people to send, or you want to send to people that I'm not asking? What's important?
This has been a great conversation. I think it's less about questions you're not asking and more about the constraints of times allowing us to explore them deeper. A couple of places we could have also gone is the macro effect of people in pursuit of purpose. Can you imagine a world where we all pursued purpose? Just imagine just the level of peace and harmony and tranquility, the connectedness of things, the very purposeful existence of everyone.
But
That's the
that's
positive.
not realistic.
Right. That is what the cynics would have you to believe, right? Is that, oh, you're never gonna have, everyone doing that. You might be right. However, could we have everyone pursue it? Is on one side.
Actually, then we wouldn't have someone doing those dirty jobs like being a janitor or like, a garbage collector, Reggie. Like
Right.
that's just not reasonable.
That's exactly, and I'd say, let's go talk to the janitor at NASA. He
Exactly.
is very aware of his purpose.
Exactly
And
right.
he wants nothing more than to make sure that the place is clean so that when scientists are doing their get on the moon stuff, they are in a clean space that allows them to think clearly and freely in that space. And then the other thing is that, if you think about, I believe all of the woes of the world, all of our trappings and the people that are in spaces that are less than desirable, or whether they are imprisoned or people that aren't accomplishing, are examples of people that have not stepped into their purpose. How often have you run into someone that's wayward and spent more than 5 minutes with them to realize that they have a gift that no one got a chance to tap into? We
Absolutely.
all we all have gifts. We all have gifts. We just don't happen to live in a world that makes it automatic that we have the opportunity to tap into them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
That's actually one of my biggest dreams. I don't know that I would call it my purpose, but one of my biggest dreams is to have this conversation with kids at much younger ages,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Discovering what that is, start talking about what drives you and um,
Mhm. Mhm.
why you're doing what you do, why you like to do the things that you like to do. What is
That's exactly right.
Um, absolutely. I love
And
the
then, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
head finish, please.
I was gonna say, and because we don't have that, we have people that fill in the void of not having that with superficial things. Like I was doing a Finding Your Forte peer group with a group of young leaders, high school students. And this really bright young man, when we talked about careers they were pursuing, wanted to be a petroleum engineer.
Wow, that's very specific at a young age.
Very specific. And here we are in Atlanta, Georgia, a place not known for, you know, oil fields and refineries. And so with a little probing, what I found out was that he had been given a careers listing with compensation and picked the top one on the top of the list. Now that might be a little chuckle for you, but how many of our um, young citizens in their developmental and influence ways have conversations with parents that may not necessarily say pick the top one, but did something along that line, right? Right. Where exactly. And so that guidance comes from very influential people where, I'm not ready to say shouldn't have because I don't dwell in the should, but there is an opportunity, there's an opportunity to engage much more meaningful things like strengths and passions and motivations. There's a reason, like when I hear parents talk about, I can't get my kid to leave that game alone. Figure out why that passion is there. Teach that kid to code. Teach that kid to design games, and then you're onto something. Then you're onto something. So you have to kind of like double down on things as opposed to trying to, I mean, art, performing arts or whatever. Like giving people the opportunity to explore their natural proclivities is a much more meaningful way to at least have them discover what is and what's not about what's purposeful for them.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Reggie, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you
I
so
agree. Thank you for inviting me to it. Absolutely.
much. Of those places that I think some people don't want to talk about
You know.
to acknowledge. And I hope that we can continue to have this conversation. Thank you for doing the work that you do. And please don't hesitate to reach out if I can be of assistance to you in any way moving forward.
Well, I'm committed to the insight that we both had that we're going to definitely do more work together. So it's just a matter of when. And this part of our purpose has already been declared just with this and any previous conversation. I'm so thankful and appreciate you for creating space for this conversation. Someone's going to hear this conversation and it's going to flip a switch for them to at least have the discovery. And then, it doesn't like it doesn't have to be so self-serving to say, hey, reach out to Reggie, he can help you discover. There are so many resources out that you can at least start to have the conversation if that's something you desire to do. I appreciate you creating space for that conversation through this platform. Yay, you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Well, I just want to end it with you started to go down this road. Don't think that this has to involve a very expensive coach.
Yes, yeah.
Right? Like this
Yes.
can be you just really journaling about those things that bring you joy and noticing the over time, noticing the themes that,
Yes.
it can be as simple as that. But I think the more we have these types of conversations, the more those doors open. So thank you.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Exactly. And if I might I'll give your listeners one little gem to want to take on what you just said. I would often tell clients that for whatever reason, can't budget or invest in our conversation. There's a book called Zen and the Art of Making a Living that takes them through many of the questions that we would go through it. If you explore, if you're self-driven and can explore to take action on these things yourself, that's an easy conversation starter. And if you need the more industrial professional strength version of that conversation, then that's when they can reach out to you, to you or I.
Yeah, absolutely. Purpose is one of our 9 key strategies to helping
Yeah.
how to attract, engage, and keep top performing people. So
Yes.
why I wanted to have this conversation today is how important is it? And clearly, I think it's everything. It's everything. The
Yes.
employer side and the candidate side. So it's a
Yes.
valuable conversation.
Thank you for acknowledging that. Yay, you for the smarts to put that forward in the way that you look to have impact in our, kind of human and leader construct within our organizations and workplaces. We're a better world and economy and organization landscape because you are intentional enough to pursue your purpose. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a great
Yes.
day, Reggie.